Hello, everyone. These are lightning talks. We've skipped the break. We're going very fast, and I'm dressed up appropriately. First off, we've got, and this will be a recorded presentation from Mike Landau, Devbox, reproducible project-based environments, or why global packages considered harmful.
Everyone, my name is Mike Landau. I'm really excited to talk about a tool that I contribute to and how it has changed how I think about project and system dependencies. So first off, what is Devbox? So Devbox is an open source tool that leverages Nix to help produce reproducible, portable, project-based environments. But why is this relevant? Well, we tend to think about system dependencies as global. And then we end up like this. So why do we need project-based system dependencies? Well, in modern software engineering, we want portability, reproducibility, isolation, but we don't want to sacrifice performance. So containers are great for production, but no one wants to code in a container. Individual version managers can help, but they really have very limited scope. So we really think it shouldn't be this hard. So the Devbox solution is really to build on the shoulders of giants. So Devbox leverages Nix, and we think Nix is awesome. Nix allows building packages, environments, and other outputs in a declarative, reproducible, verifiable way. Nix packages, the Nix package repository has over 80,000 packages, distinct packages. It's the largest repository of packages on the internet by both freshness and size. The Nix packages live on GitHub, so they leverage Git history and have indefinite package history. But there is a downside. Nix is hard. Nix is really hard to learn. It has a significant learning curve. Nix packages is edge only for the most part. It does not have older packages unless you look back through Git history. And searching through Git history is difficult. It is not how humans think of search. So again, we think it shouldn't be this hard. So the Devbox team worked on building NixHub.io. And NixHub is a search engine that allows you to search the way humans do using Semver most of the time. It has over 400,000 granular packages. And it points to Nix packages. It's up to date every day with Nix packages. It searches any package that you want and maps it back to its original source and optimizes by trying to point you to the same commit. So the Nix philosophy is that you should try to install things from the same commit out of Nix packages, which ensures that all your packages share the same dependencies. NixHub and Devbox do not enforce this, but they try to optimize for it. So how do you use NixHub? Well, again, we don't think it should be this hard. So the way we think about Devbox is just this fancy interpreter. We think JSON is the language of truth, and we think JSON can be a great way to express what you want and how you want it to look when you're building your environment. So this is an example of what Devbox turns a JSON that looks like this into your environment. We think that devbox.json is a declarative way to express your dependencies and your environment. It's declarative like Nix, but much more straightforward. It's designed to be self-documenting and not do a lot of fancy things that are difficult to learn and might get you in trouble and might also make your environment less portable. So when we think about portability, we really think about this devbox.json and your ability to take to any machine and any platform and really reproduce your entire environment, not only your project, but actually your system dependencies as well. In addition, Devbox is not limited to Nix. Devbox can have additional package sources. In this example, you see RunX. RunX leverages GitHub-built packages. So as long as packages are released in a certain way, in a certain format on GitHub, Devbox can consume them as well. So Devbox does want to be agnostic to the source of the packages it builds, and give you the ability to choose between many package sources. So yeah, that's it. So that's why we love project-based environments, and hopefully Devbox is a way to do that that is not that hard.
Thank you so much, Mike. I was super interested in that, but I've been told we have no time for questions whatsoever. And so I believe the next person up would be Sebastian Schuberth, who personally was very nice to me over the Discord. And he's going to be speaking about package management analysis in the OSS Review Toolkit. You can clap.
So sorry for that. That was quicker than I thought. I thought the first lightning talk is 10 minutes, not 5 minutes. Still need to boot up my machine. So, okay. Yeah, welcome to my lightning talk about the OSS Review Toolkit's analyzer specifically. I'm one of the founders and maintainers of the OSS Review Toolkit. And in a second, I will hopefully be able to show you what this is about. Brauche ich nicht. Doesn't seem to be working yet. Okay, great. Now it's working. Okay. So here we go. What is the OSS Review Toolkit, or ORT for short? In essence, it's a suite of tools to automate software compliance checks. And that includes license compliance checks in terms of obligations. It includes vulnerability checks, all kind of stuff. And the analyzer is the tool that I'm going to talk about here, but there are a lot of other tools in the toolkit, like the scanner, for example, where we are calling license scanners to find copyright and license statements. There's the advisor for finding out about known vulnerabilities. There's the evaluator to implement policy rules, and the report to write out SBOMs and so on. But let's focus on the analyzer, because this is actually about package managers. So in essence, the analyzer determines the dependencies of a project in a source code base, and the project's or the package metadata, abstracting away the details of which package managers are actually being used. So you can use you can analyze a source code repository that is using multiple package managers for front-end and back-end projects and so on. So essentially, the analyzer is an SDA tool, but we have a few specialities, like it doesn't require you to make any changes to your software project. You don't need to apply any build system plugins or something like that. And it tries to be efficient in assembling all the data about your dependencies by not actually building the project or downloading any binaries. So how do we actually do that? Whenever we can, we leverage the package manager's native API, like for Gradle, for example, there's the tooling API, or we call out to the package manager's CLI. Because, of course, we don't want to re-implement nasty stuff like resolution logic or version conflict resolution logic and stuff like that. So why don't we simply parse log files if the package manager supports log files? Well, the simple answer is that there is often not enough metadata contained in there. So many log files don't contain, for example, declared licenses or copyright statements and this kind of stuff that you need if you want to implement license compliance checks. All of this works best if metadata is separated from binary data. So a good example is actually Maven. Maven has been around for many years, but sometimes people, I believe, underestimate the very sane design choices that have been made in Maven. So the Maven POM XML is separate from the jars. And in contrast to that, for example, in NPM, the package JSON is actually contained in the tar file. And yeah, big shout out again to Danny and other people, because I'm very happy to see Python being on the right track by decoupling metadata from downloads in pip. So that was really great. ORT as a project is actively looking for contributors. So our project is hosted on GitHub. We're Apache 2 licensed. We are actually already around for about 6 years and approaching 1,300 GitHub stars, which is not too bad for such a niche project, I would say. ORT is written fully in Kotlin, and we're targeting the JVM. So sorry, guys, no Rust yet in there. But yeah, Kotlin or the JVM should not scare you off too much, because I'm actually looking at leveraging GraalVM for its polyglot features. So we could, for example, call out to simple Python scripts or whatever to use libresolve or something programmatically, and you know, get rid of those CLI dependencies that we sometimes still have. Yeah, the analyzer itself supports roughly 25 package managers, so we have a rather broad view across a quite large number of package managers and how they're working internally and stuff like that. But we sometimes lack the deep knowledge about how you could optimize things, and if, for example, if there are new features in package managers and so on, we sometimes miss to catch up. For example, Conda support is not yet there. We support, of course, Python and pip and poetry and all that, but Conda not yet. So maybe we're going to look at Pixie or so, which is what I've learned about here. And we have other various ideas for improvements. So thank you.
That was absolutely fantastic. I've been told we have no time for questions, but I didn't give Sebastian very much time to set up. So I'm going to switch over to Randy Döring. Is that correct? Döring, fantastic. And I'm very excited for your talk.
Yeah, hello, my name is Randy, and I want to talk about poetry's most important feature, at least in my opinion, that is its ability to generate an environment-independent log file. At first, some short notes about me. In my free time, I'm a poetry maintainer for about 1.5 years now, and at daily work, I'm a software developer at Tracetronic, and there I'm in a team that is responsible for a large multi-platform Python application with more than 300 dependencies, and that's also how I came to poetry in the first place. So what's so difficult about finding an environment-independent solution? If you only have normal dependencies without any markers, it's not difficult at all, because basically you get the same solution for each environment. However, if environment markers come into play, it's not so easy anymore. If you only want to find an environment-specific solution, like, for example, pip does, it's still quite simple, because you can just evaluate markers by inserting the values for the target environment. And if you get true, you have to consider the dependency, like any other dependency. And if you get false, you can just ignore it. However, if you want to find an environment-independent solution, you can't just evaluate markers. On the other side, you also can't just ignore markers. It works in some cases, but in this example, if you ignore markers, you'll get a conflict, because there's no version of A that satisfies both constraints. But that's not an issue in this case, because the environment markers make sure that only one of both constraints is relevant for each possible environment. What poetry does in this case is it basically splits the resolution process in two, so still quite simple. It becomes more interesting if you have multiple dependencies with multiple constraints each. In such a case, poetry has to consider each combination of dependencies. However, if we just try to find a solution for each combination, that's not just a performance issue, we also might get bogus conflicts for combinations that are not relevant at all. So it's essential to detect irrelevant combinations and discard them. In order to do that, Poetry builds the intersection of their markers and checks if it is empty. So, for example, if we take the first constraint for A here and the second constraint for B, the intersection of markers is Python version greater equal 3.10 and Python version less than 3.9. And of course, there is no Python version that can satisfy this constraint. So in other words, it is empty, the intersection, and we can ignore this combination. So it's easy to detect empty intersections in this example. However, in real world, markers can become quite complicated. And probably most of you will agree, I hope so, that it's difficult to see if the intersection of these two real-world markers is empty or not. Poetry can tell you, because it has a quite sophisticated marker logic. Poetry can build the intersection and union of markers, it can invert markers, and always with a goal to simplify the resulting marker as far as possible, and finally detect empty and any markers. That is, markers that can never be satisfied and markers that are always satisfied for each possible environment. To not miss any simplification, Poetry can calculate the disjunctive or conjunctive normal form of markers. And because sometimes normal forms are more complicated than unnormalized markers, there's a mechanism to always propagate the least complex marker representation. So complexity does not stack up in subsequent operations. Unfortunately, calculating normal forms can also be computationally expensive. In order to mitigate this, there's some caching, so we don't have to calculate a normal form or part of it twice during dependency resolution. Of course, environment markers are not the only challenge when trying to find an environment-independent solution, but that's something for another day. Thank you.
I little wonder whether we've saved the best for last year. That was really interesting, and I'm going to look it up afterwards. And so that was Randy Döring. We've now got Samuel Cochran, reverse engineering package registries in the middle of nowhere.
Sorry, give me a sec. I feel like we should be at karaoke with this microphone. No, I've done it the wrong way around. Now I can't see the other one. Thank you. Okay, have I got that the right way around? Yes, great. Sorry. Thank you for sticking around so late on a Friday. For those folks actually in the room, I know it's pretty late, so I'll try and be quick. Hi, I'm Sam. I'm better known on the internet as SJ26, including on the site formerly known as Twitter, a few Mastodon instances, and on GitHub. I'm a founding engineer at BuildKite. We're a DevOps company. We run the CI for Ruby on Rails and Bazel. Thanks, Jun, for the shout out earlier. And a bunch of engineering teams like Shopify, Airbnb, Uber. And I love Ruby on Rails. BuildKite itself is a majestic monolith. It's written in Ruby on Rails. And working on it, honestly, it brings me joy. I know it's not trendy anymore, but it does. Occasionally, I like camping in the Australian bush with a bunch of similar folks at Rails camps. And we have some beautiful countryside, so it's a delight. But I feel like some people don't realize how big Australia is. I'm from Perth, which is, oh, I've got this thing, which is over here. I now live in Melbourne, which is over here. It's about 3,500 kilometers away. And I've been to Rails camps here, and sometimes over here. Put that in perspective, here's most of Europe at the same scale, we're in the middle there, and there are 750 million people on this continent. Here's just Germany, same scale, overlaid on Australia. 83 million people, average density 239 per square kilometre. This vast continent has only 26 million, 3 people per square kilometre. So you can see why there's plenty of space without much internet, especially here. Here, and honestly over here too. So we're in these places, we're getting excited, we want to build something, you sit down, you start writing some Rails, and you get stuck at the first hurdle. The power of Ruby on Rails is the bevy of libraries and gems and packages which are available, and that generally starts with Rails itself, unless you have almost no internet. That's sort of a good thing, you can stand up, go and ask someone instead of searching for Stack Overflow or whatever, but you still need the packages. So most package managers, including Ruby gems, are just fancy HTTP clients. And if you can copy a list of all the packages, the indexes, and then the packages themselves, you can use package managers wherever you are. Ruby gems is now a resilient and reliable package management platform used by many big companies. But it all started as one big list. And it's a custom Ruby format that's pretty big. And it kept growing, it has all the details of every gem inside. Obviously this didn't last. So they split it up. These are now in the same marshalling format, but they're more focused indexes, easier to generate, easier to download, but more and more gems again. Bundler came in as a way of locking your application to a specific set of deps, which is great, and so they invented a new API to make it more efficient and recursively resolve it, but turns out it was very expensive to run. So this has been shut down in favor of a new compact index. It's plain text. That's great. The versions here can be append only. I don't think they are in Ruby gems, but they could be. And clients can optimize updates. And it means you can identify the candidate packages and then grab all of their versions in a separate file and do that recursively. So like HTTP 2 and 3 makes it pretty easy to do this in multiple requests at high concurrency and all of that. That's a bit of a whirlwind of Ruby gems, but the point is keeping packages and their indexes small, plain text where possible, using append-only updates. It means you can use all the semantics of HTTP, including content negotiation, transfer encoding for compression, ranges, caching at high concurrency. So do pretty efficient dependency management, and it makes mirroring with integrity easy. Debian RPM learned these lessons a long time ago, by the way, and you can create mirrors of package repositories using an FTP client. It's plain text, easy to spider, everything's signed with GPG. So it's interesting we learn the same lessons over and over again. So some over-enthusiastic attendee would normally bring a Mac Mini to camp, and it was usually me, and it was this one. So beforehand, we'd mirror all the packages. The official mirroring tools were usually broken. Oh no. And so I wrote some scripts that walked the big lists, downloaded the packages, backfilled the indexes, all that. And a little tiny app that did the fancy dependencies API. Then at camp, we'd rig up some Wi-Fi, throw up an address on a whiteboard that had instructions of how to use it, and it worked a treat. As front end became more critical, we had an NPM mirror as well. It was more tricky, it's CouchDB under the hood, but you know, some more scripts on disk, files, and another little app, and we had a complete mirror again. And I would always mirror too early. Someone would come along who needed a newer version of something, so I'd lug along a mobile hotspot with a tiny antenna that was way powerful, and we would sip just enough internet to catch up. Same for Elixir, Rubyists started getting on that. And then we added Homebrew, which is Git plus some source code mirrors plus some pre-built bottles. And it's good to mirror some bits and pieces like Xcode tools. And all of that stuff is actually on this Mac Mini. Along with a Git service, something to do with DNS, TLS, and a few other bits and pieces. It's fun reinventing things when you've got nothing else you need to be doing. So these lessons have turned into a career for me, I'm very lucky to say. At BuildKite, we're building package management as a thing, as a next thing that we want to do. And I want to solve your problems, like I want you to want to use it. So beyond making it fast and easy, we're particularly interested in all the things we've been hearing about over the past couple of days. Securing the supply chain, capturing provenance, getting SBOMs into the right places, and being able to do the vulnerability management after it's deployed as well. So come have a chat. We'll be around at the sprint day tomorrow as well. I've also been pushing BuildKite OIDC support into Ruby gems and PyPI while we're here. Yeah, I'd love to hear from you. Thanks.
That was wonderful. I love the idea that all package managers can actually be merged together. You can all use the same API. I love that, how free it is. I love that, free love, something along those lines. Now, we'll hopefully be able to move forward. We've got, the next one will be recorded. It'll be from Daniel Liska, and it'll be about untangling the software supply chain, or SBOM specifically. Or boom.
Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. This is Daniel from Chainloop, calling in today from Rain in Poland. A very quick intro. I've been working with open source for more than 20 years, for a long time at Bitnami, helping millions of developers. And today we are building Chainloop, an open source metadata vault for software supply chain. Check it out, and your feedback is more than welcome. I think this crowd knows a lot about SBOMs, software bill of materials. I like to think about it as a nutrition label, but for software, which should be standardized, machine readable, accurate, and complete. And if we take a look at our SBOM lifecycle, we have producers on the left and consumers on the right. SBOMs are only as useful as frameworks, tools, and processes built to process, analyze, and consume all this information inside SBOMs. We also strongly believe that if your decisions around security and compliance are based on what's inside SBOMs, this is critical to have them trusted and trustworthy. We need supply chain metadata to be uniquely identifiable, unforgeable, complete, and available. Mainly because SBOM is yet another artifact, important one, and built and assembled inside software supply chain, and it can also get compromised. So what if we build trusted supply chain metadata best practices, a pattern? Think about end-to-end from generation to distribution with properties like availability, integrity, uniqueness, provenance, and enforcement. And you can implement this pattern today with already existing tools and frameworks like Sigstore, Salsa, Intoto, and OCI, or you can use tool open source solution like Chainloop. And the nice thing about Chainloop is it embraces all these good standards and add declarative contracts and our own implementation of content addressable storage on top. In this demo, I'm going to show you how to collect software build materials like CycloneDX.json in GitHub Action. We will automatically create Intoto attestation. We will store metadata and artifact in different locations, different backends, like Azure Blob Storage, and we will send it to Guac and dependency track for CVE scanning and open source license compliance. Let me go to web browser. So first of all, Chainloop, you get here to get Helm charts to install Chainloop on your side, on your server. You can get CLI from here. I have my own application as a developer. This is Demo Spring Pet Clinic, also available in our GitHub account. And the only thing what I have to do is to add a few snippets in my workflow. And I need Chainloop token. And also I need to specify how to find all these different metadata and artifacts required by security and operations in the Chainloop contract. Once I have it, the new job is going to be added. In this case, everything was successful. We have workflow ID from Chainloop. We have all materials, pieces of evidence stored and sent to Chainloop, and also additional context from GitHub. If I go to CLI, I have my Chainloop CLI installed. I can list all these different workflow runs. This is the latest one I was showing you in the web browser. I can get exactly the same information, but in the command line tool, I can get the same, but in the form of in total attestation statement. And as you can see here, I have my SBOM, I have SHA provided, so I can download from the command line tool just with SHA my SecondDX, and it has been downloaded directly from Azure Blob Storage in this case. So now if I go to web browser again, I can see that all these different attestations and metadata are sent to Azure and to Guac and to dependency track. In the dependency track, I can see all these different components. I can search for log4j. I can go and check CVEs or policy violations. To finish, I want you to remember that generating and consuming SBOMs is just part of the picture, and trusted supply chain metadata are equally important, are, in my opinion, are crucial. Thank you.
Is that the last talk at PackagingCon? I think this is the last talk, technically, but it will be short. There's been a lot that's been happening the past few days. I think there's a lot to kind of recap and to cover. First of all, let's give a round of applause for all the speakers the past 2 days. So we've crunched the numbers, and we have had over 200 attendees of this event, both folks here physically and virtually, and really appreciate particularly folks joining online. Glad you could make it. Many of you joining at different times across the world. We really appreciate that. Before I get into some additional thank yous, I do want to make an announcement. Tomorrow there will be sprints. And some of you asked some questions about this. Just to recap, sprints are meant as a kind of collaborative work day, also known as a hackathon. They're going to be taking place here on campus, not physically in this building. I believe that the building's located over there. Information was emailed to you. Something that you should know is that if you're going to be participating, you should register. And if you go on the Discord channel for PackagingCon, it is a pinned message. So check that out. And if you're interested, you have some ideas, or you want to see who else is interested in your own ideas as well, there's a dedicated post or thread specifically for brainstorming. So feel free to get that conversation started in advance of that hackathon. Now time for thank yous, and there'll be lots of clapping here. First of all, thank you to NumFocus for supporting and helping to put on this event. Thank you, NumFocus. Thanks to our sponsors, Platinum, Bloomberg Engineering, Gold, QuantStack, Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory, Prefix.dev, Silver, Quansight, Anaconda, Trail of Bits, Determinate Systems, and Chocolatey. Thank you for helping support this. It made this event possible. Events like this are very much driven by participation from volunteers. I know many of you in this room, including many of you that are joining remotely and weren't able to join in person, have helped in various ways. If you can join us in standing, if you've helped serve on the program committee, if you've kind of joined any of the organizing calls, volunteered, don't be shy. We'd like to recognize you and clap on your behalf. Also MCs, I see a few folks that were MCs. If you'd like to stand briefly. And I know there are more of you, but thank you so much for helping out. I'd like to talk briefly about kind of where we can go from here. And these are just some thoughts, some questions. Ultimately, this is up to you. As an event which has really been driven by volunteer participation, your participation is necessary to keep events like this going. So one question I've talked to some folks about and they've asked is, when's the next PackagingCon? And I asked that question to you. When is the next PackagingCon? When would you like it to be? What would you like the next PackagingCon to be like? These are all questions that I think are yet to be figured out, not because there's a lack of interest, but because I think it needs to reflect what makes sense, how this experience was at this event, where you'd like to see the community go. And I'd like to use this as an opportunity to kind of as a call to action for those of you that are interested, that have sparked some interest, that have maybe built some new friendships or professional connections, to get involved in various ways. So one of the things that we'll be doing after this event is sending out a survey. People, don't always love surveys, but that survey is not only to see what went well, but what didn't go well, what we can do better in the future. And there'll be a part of the survey that asks, how would you like to contribute? We may offer some ideas, but we'd really like to hear from you about ways, skills, talents, any different way that you might like to volunteer, or potentially, perhaps your organization wants to help support this event in the future. But that will help this kind of community going. And I think that's a really important thing to engage on at this point, to take the excitement and energy of this moment and to kind of keep it moving forward. So that email will be going out after the event. Definitely be on the lookout for that, and videos from the event as well will be going online, and I'm sure there'll be additional communications about that. I'd also encourage you to kind of look around the room right now and think about all of the great talks that you've heard, but also all of the talks and colleagues that aren't here today. Things that you're like, oh, I wish that we went deeper in this topic or this particular area. And while there won't be a PackagingCon tomorrow, one suggestion would be for you to think about inviting them to this community, and specifically the Discord community is something which existed before this event and will continue on after this event. And that's one place specifically that I would encourage you to invite others to become engaged now. Not only will hopefully they be interested in some of the great conversations that have been taking place, but also potentially it's an opportunity to bring them into the fold of this broader kind of package community. So I'd encourage you to do that after the event as well. And it's been really exciting to see just how much interest, particularly online, that we've had from folks kind of tuning in and really participating in different ways. We all come from our own respective ecosystems and communities. So one thing that you can do is take PackagingCon back with you. And I think we'll inherently do that based on the things that we've learned. I know some folks are actually leaving this event and going to the Reproducible Builds conference. Who here is going to that? Want to raise your hand? So look around, show of hands here. Start to make those connections now. And there are all these events that are happening continuously. We can find better ways to collaborate in the future. And some of these collaborations already happened, but definitely making that visible for others to become engaged is, I think, another opportunity that we all have moving forward. Okay, so we thanked a lot of folks. There are two people in particular that I want to make sure that we thank in particular. The first of which is Todd Gamblin. Todd chaired the program committee. Todd, could you come up here on stage? Don't worry, no need to speak, but just want to make sure we recognize you. Thank you, Todd. And Wolf. Wolf is the lead organizer behind this event. It would not have happened without Wolf. Really appreciate his efforts. And thank you for coming to this event. It's been phenomenal. Speaking on behalf of everyone that's been involved in various capacities, having talked to a lot of attendees, I know there's been a lot of excitement and energy around this event, and I'm really thrilled about how it turned out. Looking forward to future community engagements. So thank you so much for coming, and have a great time.